Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the ROM Sandbox Clashcast Episode 4. I'm Atro.
I'm Murc.
And so on today's episode, we're going to start with just some war recaps. It's been a little bit since we've done a Clashcast. And then we're going to get into our part 2 of how to train your dragon. So we're going to go over the 105 Dragoon strategy, which has a traditional component and an inverted component based on the war base layout. We're going to go over just a little teaser about army compositions that we'll get into in a future Clashcast. And then, obviously, we'll wrap up. We'll let you know what's coming up. Okay, so recent wars. We had a little bit of a rough run there, but have since sort of turned it around in the last week. So we had a big stretch of reds there.
Yeah, we ran into 4 consecutive clans that were incredibly strong. And if you look at the totals, they put up 80 stars on us 3 times, including 808 State of Grace putting up 86 stars. That means they 3-starred every single one of our bases except for 4 of them, and all of those got a 2-star or a 1-star. It was pretty ugly.
That is an ugly one. 86 stars, there's really nothing you can do about that. So this first picture here, our wars from the last Clashcast start after the Bavaria Players War. So that was that first war with the Chinese clan, is
some sort of non-standard characters.
Right, was the war we had just finished up when we ended Clashcast 3. So since then we're 4-4 and 14-8 since the Clashcast debut. Still a great record.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the next, this next picture just shows you after the 4 straight losses, our 2 most recent wars. And I really like any number where we win and the stars start with a 7. That's really good because we had been in the mid to high 60s. So this past war, I believe, we had only 51 attacks and still 70 stars. So that's pretty good.
Oh, it absolutely is. And if you look at this, we're pretty consistently in the mid-60s to lower 70s at this point. The anomaly was against 808 State of Grace when we were just down so far. We called off the dogs and advised folks, don't spend a ton of elixir on an attack where you're not going to get any loot in return.
I think we were 8 hours out from the end and we were calling it off at that point. I mean, it was just, again, unless somehow you can get... If somebody had their town hall outside and you could get it for cheap, maybe, but other than that,
it's just not worth the trade-off knowing you're only getting 30% back on your efforts.
Exactly. So our most recent win, this is the one against Ace Army, as I mentioned, 51 attacks used. So that's not even, that's a little lower than our average. We had been up in the mid-50s with only a couple attacks not used, and we still scored 70 stars.
Yeah, it was a very efficient war for us, winning 42 of the attacks. And, as Atro mentioned, we left 9 of them on the table, but wasn't even relevant. We were still up by 17 stars. Had we really needed to bring a couple people in for a few more attacks, we could have done it. It's nice to get into those last couple of hours with a big cushion because what it allows you to do is maybe instead of going for a 2-star, you look for a little harder 1-star and know that you're getting more loot without actually negatively affecting the rest of the clan.
And that's exactly what I did. I decided to take a shot at number 1 just because he had so much loot, and I was confident I could at least get to the 50%. But also I wanted to mention that I did try and post a couple hours out at the end of the war for everybody to take, hey, if you have attacks, take them and try and get some loot. This is a perfect opportunity. We're already going to win. They're basically mathematically eliminated. They weren't going to be able to come back based on their showing and the number of attacks they had left at the top. So, if you've already taken 1 attack, because somebody left an attack on the table, because if there were 4 people who didn't attack, that would still be 8. So somebody left an attack on the table. Mm-hmm. Definitely don't want to do that if the war is panning out the way this one in particular did. So just a quick, another part of this war was if you look at this screen and you look at their top 4, there's 3 Town Hall 10s, and on the next screen there's a 4th Town Hall 10. And we dominated this clan. So what that tells you is, as we may have seen with Angry Neeson 52 in the Clashcast commercial during the Super Bowl, don't AJ your base. Make sure that your base is fully upgraded before hitting the button.
An excellent point. If you look at a couple of the folks that we went after at the top, yeah, they had a level 10 town hall, and they might have even had some stuff like an Inferno Tower here and there that was built, but most of their legacy defenses were not upgraded, their walls were not upgraded, their traps were not upgraded, and it got pretty easy to just kind of run them over for 1, 2, and in the case of Nikolaj here, a full 3 stars. You want to take that lesson well. You saw what happened to poor Liam. Why did his base get run over? Look at that level 2 cannon next to his town hall. Look at those level 2 walls all over the place, those level 3 archer towers. You're going to get run over by an experienced clan when that happens.
You would think with his particular set of skills, he would have known not to AJ his own base.
You would think, but he appears to have missed that particular point. Perhaps he needs to watch a few more Clash casts.
That's right. Okay, so this isn't our most recent loss, but it was the one that I had the screenshot of. This is the 808 State of Grace. This was brutal.
This was a massacre. We got destroyed.
It really was. They almost doubled us up. And again, part of that was because we called off the troops. You can see we only had 37 attacks used. This one we knew we were bested. There was no chance we were going to get past this one.
There's also a key stat in here if you look, and that's attacks lost. This clan, in addition to being very good offensively, had some very well-established bases. We lost 11 attacks. We used 37 and lost 11. That's nearly a third of our attacks that failed to gain a star. That's usually indicative of some very well put together defenses.
Yep, agreed. Okay, so we'll get into our second part of our Dragon Strategy episode. So as you can see, the two in green, that's the 11 Light and the 813. We already talked about those. I've seen a lot of people use both strategies very well recently. So congrats to all the guys who've kind of picked this up and been able to apply it in their war attacks. Like I said, our average stars have been trending up, so hopefully we'll keep that and people can use these strategies. So today we're going to talk about the 105 Dragoon, which is a slight, you kind of start at the top with the all 11 dragons, 3 lightning spells, and as you go down you add more balloons. So this one is in the middle of the two strategies. So the 105 Dragoon is 10 inventory dragons, 5 level 6 clan castle balloons, which I now have the ability to make, as well as Jack and Heisenberg, so that's a third person who can make, so request away. And then in this strategy, you're going to use a mix of rage and heal spells depending on the base layout. So you're not using your lightning in this particular strategy. You're going to use rage and heal to get you to where those air defenses are.
And that's a very important point right there that we need to emphasize. When you're going to take one of these strategies into war, make sure that you've got the correct spell combination. We don't have screenshots of it, but one of the previous wars, I went after a 105 Dragoon with the 4 lightning spells because I happened to have those in inventory, and not wanting to waste them, I said, okay, whatever, let's see what kind of damage I can do. The lightning spells don't work well with the 105s. You really do need to have that mix of rage and heal spells. So as you're looking around and you're plotting out what attack you're going to take, make sure that you cook up the proper spells and make sure that you have all of those spells ready to go before you start the battle.
Yep, it'll kind of bore itself out as to why you do want to use the rage and the heal spells, because of the 105 is defined by the way the ADs are laid out in terms of being tight to each other. So we can start here on the 105 Dragoon overview. This is when all 3 of the ADs are tight to the town hall. So typically this is the triangle formation. You see the town hall, and then on the north of the town hall, and then southeast and southwest of the town hall, you see the ADs in that triangle formation. And when they're that tight, that means that once one starts firing at you, they all start firing at you because everything is so close. So you have to make sure that you have those heal spells to get your dragons into the mid part of the base, and then you use a second heal spell to keep them moving forward, and then you rage into the town hall in the last air defense based on your composition. So the two strategies, there's a traditional and an inverted. And the traditional, you can signify it by a 105.21. So 2-1 means 2 heal, 1 rage, and the point of the traditional attack is to broadside 2 of the air defenses. So you want to sit right in between those 2 air defenses so that your dragons, if there's a building in between them, that's fine. But once they blow that up, they're going to both spread out this way into, left and right into those 2 air defenses. And then you're going to use your last rage spell to get the town hall and the last air defense. The inverted is the 105.12, which is 1 heal, 2 rage. You're attacking the point of the triangle, and the reason you do that is you're looking at the base, and based on where the clan castle is and based on how the base is laid out, you're going to decide whether you're going to attack the broadside or you're going to attack the point of the triangle. So again, here, this is a picture just how to decide between a traditional and an inverted. So if you look at the picture on the left and the right, you both see those tight air defenses and where they are in relation to the town hall and the clan castle. So when you're looking at war bases, you always want to assess the base before you create your spells and before you create your army. So the way you do this is you can draw a triangle connecting all the air defenses, and you want to locate the clan castle and try and delay the interaction with that as late as possible. So in the bottom left picture, you see that clan castle is very tight to the town hall and the air defenses. So that would show you that you want to hit the point of the triangle so that you're interacting with that clan castle at the very end of the battle, or at least in the mid part of the battle. The one on the right, you don't even see the clan castle because this was as far south of the base as possible. So that was sort of a gift in that you didn't even really have to touch the clan castle until the very end of the attack.
Yeah, and part of the reason that you want to delay the interaction with the clan castle is that what will generally happen with dragons is they will go and they will focus everything up on the clan castle. And if it takes them 2 to 3 seconds to go wipe out the clan castle, that's 2 or 3 extra hits that they're going to take from the air defenses. And you really need to have as many dragons as possible when you get into the middle of the town hall to make sure that you can take it out as quickly as possible. So if you can prevent running into the clan castle until after you've already started damaging the town hall, excellent. And in fact, if you look at the picture on the left, part of the beauty of the inverted here is that you might line up the troops with one of the air defenses or with one of the clan castles, or excuse me, with the town hall, and as your dragons are doing the splash damage, you might get to double that up. But the less damage to which your dragons are subjected in any given time, the better your chances are of actually taking out the target in front of them.
Agreed. So we'll go over the basic strategy. So the 105.21, again, that's 2 heal, 1 rage. So this is where you're going to broadside 2 of the ADs, and you're going to pick the ADs to broadside that are furthest from the clan castle. So as you didn't see in that other picture because the clan castle was so far south of the base, but I decided still to go from the side, the north part of that broadside of that triangle, to avoid interacting with the clan castle. You're going to draw your attack planning lines. We'll show you how to do that. Again, deploy your cutters, which are very important. And then you're going to deploy your attack dragons along the attack line. This is the standard process we've used for all dragon attacks. From there, and again, the key to beginning this attack is you want to settle in between the 2 ADs that you're going to broadside. So as soon as the ADs, the 2 that you're broadsiding engage the dragons, that's when you deploy your first heal spell. So it's likely after that first or second layer of defense, right as you get into mid part of the base. So as soon as that heal spell runs out, you're going to drop your second heal, right when the first one begins to wear off. And then by that time, you're probably near the 2 ADs, but likely that third AD is going to be engaging at that point. So that's when you're going to deploy your balloons. And the balloons are going to be on the outside of the base. They're going to take a while to get there. But then you want to deploy your rage spell just to ensure that the last AD and the town hall go down. And then after that, I mean, assuming you just didn't get completely destroyed and only have 1 or 2 dragons left, you can deploy your Barb King. But at that point, you're likely to be a 3-star.
Right, and the other thing that's important to keep in mind is when that third air defense engages, you're going to start deploying your balloons, and that's going to help take some of the pressure off of your dragons. Your balloons are either going to get in there and wipe out the third air defense on their own, or if they don't get that far, they're probably wiping out other turrets that have an air capability. So if you can knock out an archer tower, a wizard tower, or a hidden Tesla, that just takes some pressure off the dragons to finish cleaning up the base.
Yep. Okay, so let's go through a quick example here of the 105.21. So as you can see, this picture in the middle. If you drew that triangle, that's the same triangle I used earlier when I was talking about it. So you can see how far south the clan castle is, and this was during our HD 504 war. So you can see my setup here is 10 dragons in the inventory of the clan castle. I have 5 level 6 balloons, my level 5 BK. I have an archer queen, but I chose not to use it since this is mostly a town hall 8 attack. And then the 2 heal spells and the 1 rage spell.
Yeah. So real quick before we get into it, very important point looking at this town hall layout. Where you see that clan castle in the bottom corner, that's about the most worthless place that you can find to put a clan castle. If your clan castle in a war is that far away from your town hall, go in right now, adjust your base, and get it in tighter to the town hall.
Agreed, definitely. So again, you can see that on this particular slide the triangle that I've drawn, and I've drawn a line all the way to the clan castle just to further illustrate it. It's very far from the base, as Murc said. This is the worst place you could possibly have it because I can just ignore this clan castle the entire time. And then once all the air defenses are down, maybe it comes out and engage, but I still have 5 or 6 dragons. I'm going to be good to go. So you're going to broadside that AD that's north on this picture. So the 2 that are right near the northernmost mortar. And on the next slide, I've drawn the attack lines, and I've drawn this sort of cone, if you will, in yellow of where you like your dragons to settle. So branching out from the air defenses, you hope that once you deploy your cutters that your dragons are going to funnel in this way. And it actually works out that this base is sort of laid out that way in terms of it has some defined lines where you could put cut dragons and easily create that funnel V shape that's going to go right to the where you want to be.
Right, and that's an important point, because if you look at the triangle, you could theoretically, these air defenses are fairly evenly spaced, so you could theoretically pick any side of that triangle to broadside. But what you can see Atro's done here is he's taken a path that's not just the shortest distance, but it takes him over only one archer tower and one wizard tower, minimizing the amount of damage those dragons are going to sustain as they approach those first two air defenses.
And let's be honest, this probably isn't the best base layout for this person to have created, so that helps me. But still, it's recognizing that fact and then plotting your attack appropriately so that you don't just walk into something that you could have easily avoided.
Absolutely.
So again, I've on this picture, I've drawn the two areas where you're going to deploy your cut dragons, and you can see I've done that on each of the sides. So I put them right in between those two bases. I'm hoping that they hit that first collector and gold mine, then turn left, start hitting the barracks that are there, and then move straight down that line. So this is again, deploying the cut dragons properly is going to help you, because you can see that the base. That side of the base actually forms sort of a V. So all of the defensive buildings are sort of in a V. That's perfect for how I'm going to want my dragons to move. So at the 1 minute 59 second mark, I've deployed all my attack dragons. You can see the barracks, both barracks are down. Both collectors that were in between the cut dragons are almost down. And now my dragons have nowhere to go but straight down south towards all of the air defenses that I want to get rid of. And so on this next slide, 1 minute 51. So here's where you need to exercise some patience, and that's something that I've learned recently in doing this. Let your attack, you've planned out this attack, and these are proven strategies. Let your attack strategy do work for you. So even though I'm getting hit by a wizard tower, even though I'm getting hit by some archer tower, let my dragons get deeper into the base so I can maximize the effectiveness of my heal spell.
Yeah, and what you've got to remember, not everyone's going to have level 3 dragons. Atro and I are lucky that we're up to level 3 at this point, but even with a level 1 or a level 2 dragon, they're going to be able to take a fair number of hits from an archer tower or a wizard tower on the way in. It's really the air defenses and the seeking air mines that pose the big threat to them. So if you've got a large group of dragons, as Atro still does here, and it's just one wizard tower and one archer tower, don't worry about it. Hold the heal spell, keep the safety on the trigger right there, and let them get deeper into the base before you drop it.
Yep. The 1 minute 46 mark, you can see both of those that first line of air defenses have begun to engage. So this is the point that needs to trigger in your mind. I need to drop my heal spell. And again, you want to do it so that the heal spell settles right where your dragons are going to settle, right in between the two air defenses, so that they're getting healed the entire time that they're getting shot by those air defenses. So as we move on at the 1 minute 40 mark, you see I've deployed the heal. I've circled both of the air defenses with my heal spell. Every single one of my dragons, other than the cutter on the far right, is being healed at this point. That's very good in terms of, keeping as many dragons as possible alive for the end game part of the base.
Right, and remember, we've spoken about this a couple of times. Dragons, when they're attacking the same thing, they're doing hundreds and hundreds of points of damage a second. If you've got 5 dragons going after the same thing, you're probably talking about between 700 and 900 points of damage a second. Even an air defense is only going to hold up 1 to 2 seconds under those conditions.
And luckily, in this attack, in typical 105.21s, the clan castle would have been emptied and engaging the dragons, but luckily for us here, it's so far south, I don't even have to worry about it. So I know this attack is going very well, as even at the 1 minute 40 second mark. 1 minute 53, you can already see the first two ADs are down. It's hard to count on this picture, but I don't think I've lost a single dragon yet in this attack. And, now the dragons are kind of moving towards that middle part of the base. There's one collector there, there's 2 mortars, but then I can get to that last air defense and the town hall, and then it's going to be game over. So the 1 minute 29 second mark, as the first heal spell you can just see is wearing off, I've dropped the second heal spell. In addition, the last air defense has started to engage my dragons, and that's the point where you want to drop the balloons. So, and I've actually kind of mistimed this a little bit. So I'm still, everyone's still learning, and what can be learned here is you want to drop the balloons so that by the time they get into the middle of the base, the air defense is already firing at a dragon. So you can wait until the last air defense engages, which is the safest way to do. But at this point, the balloons are really moving southwest in this, and they're not even really going towards the last air defense.
Right. The balloons are generally going to attack the closest target. So the only downside to a strategy as it was employed here is that the balloons have a long way to go. If there was anything left, that's what the balloons would go after. In this case, it's not going to matter. As you can see, there's too many dragons left, too close to the town hall. Those balloons are just going to move around the outside, and they're going to wipe out. They're going to wipe out the cannon. They're going to take out an archer tower. They're going to have a good time on their own, and it's not going to affect the ability to 3-star this base.
And I also could have, another thing just to point out is I could have dropped it them a little further left. They still probably would have targeted that cannon first, but it would have been a shorter time that they were just flying over the base that's already been destroyed. So that's something I can learn even from doing this attack, even though it's going to work out for me. So 1 minute 25-second mark. You can see I've dropped the last. I'm basically raging into the last AD in the town hall. So you're going to do this so you can just increase the damage. If you're low on dragons, say you only had 2 or 3 left, you're going to want that extra power to be able to knock out this air defense as soon as possible. And then once that happens, you'll knock out the town hall. Everything else is probably, especially since in this case the archer towers are so far out, they're not even really hitting my dragons right now, other than the ones that are on the right side of the base.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. At this stage of the battle, it's really 1-on-6, 1-on-7. It's that single air defense trying to take down all the dragons because the rest of the defenses are spread too far out to provide any help.
Exactly. 1 minute 18-second mark. The last air defense is down. I dropped my Barb King to start helping me get rid of some of these buildings just for time's sake, even though I had over 2 minutes left. My balloons are starting to get near the that first cannon. They'll probably move down to the archer tower after this, and then it's pretty much just going to be game over. I mean, there's nothing left that's going to stop at least 7 dragons, 5 level 6 balloons. Nothing's going to stop this. And as you can see, 100%. Again, the 10 dragons, 5 level 6 balloons, 2 heal spells, 1 rage spell. You can see I didn't use my Archer Queen there. Definitely didn't need it. Probably didn't even need my Barb King, but just for purposes of knowing the whole Town Hall 8 arsenal. So, again, quick recap of the 105.21. That's the traditional. You want to broadside 2 ADs, and you're going to pick the ADs that are furthest from the clan castle so that you engage it the latest in the battle. Draw your attack planning lines. Drop your first heal when the air defenses engage on the broadside. Drop your second heal as soon as the first one wears off. You should be dropping it almost in the center of the base at this point. Deploy the balloons when last air defense engages, and you can mess around with the timing to hopefully you can engage some other defensive buildings earlier if you drop your balloons earlier. And then rage into the last AD in Town Hall. Finish the job. Drop your BK as necessary.
Yeah, it's a proven strategy. You can see the results in our past several wars.
Yep. So moving on to the 105.12, this is the inverted Dragoon where you're going to use 1 heal spell, 2 rage. So in this point, this attack, you're going to attack the point of the triangle to avoid any early clan castle engagement. So had I done that, if I were to broadside on the clan castle side, I'm going to get those wizards or a dragon coming out early, and I'm going to have to figure out a way to get rid of them first. That's going to allow more time for the air defenses to attack my dragons. And that's something I want to avoid.
No, I mean, and it goes back to something that we've said a number of times. There's really only a couple of things that can do major damage to a dragon. There's a group of wizards in the clan castle, there's a dragon in the clan castle, there's an upgraded air defense, and there's a seeking air mine. Everything else on its own is going to lose to a dragon and lose pretty quickly. So the fewer of those things you engage at any given time, the less chance of your dragons getting shot down and you ending up 1 or 2 stars short on your attack.
Yep. So as we have always said, draw your attack planning lines, deploy your dragon cutters based on the point of the triangle you're trying to attack, deploy your attack dragons along that attack line. In this case, obviously, like I said, you're going to have 2 rage. And what you're going to do is you're going to deploy the first rage once you get past that first initial 1 or 2 lines of defense. And that first rage is going to get you to the first AD and to destroy it. Once that's down, you're going to deploy your heal spell that encircles the other 2 air defenses so that the entire time you're interacting with those last 2 air defenses, you should be under a heal spell. You deploy your balloons when the last 2, the broad side of the ADs engage your dragons. And then you're going to deploy the last rage spell just to ensure that the air defenses in the town hall go down, and then deploy your BK as needed to trim in case some dragons, start to wander off. So here's the setup of the base with the 105.12 inverted. This is the exact same picture I used at the beginning. And as you can see, that drawing the triangle, all three of those air defenses are in tight to the town hall. And in this case, the clan castle is behind the town hall. So I know I don't want to broadside it from that particular, using that particular strategy. I could broadside from the right, or maybe completely south of the base, but it just seems to look more, hit the point of that V. There's not a lot of defensive buildings around there, and I should easily be able to use this strategy for this base.
Right, and reinforcing that decision, if you look at the attack route that Atro is going to choose here, he's going to come over a single archer tower. He's going to wipe out that archer tower, and then he's going to get engaged by one of the wizard towers at a time coming in through the air defense. So at no point in time is he going to subject his group of dragons to a massive attack from a bunch of other defensive structures. He's going to limit that damage to one at a time, right up to the point where they start engaging the air defenses.
Yeah, so the point of coming in from the eastern side, I would have to deal with a wizard tower, 2 air defenses, and 2 archer towers. Coming from south, same exact deal, 1 wizard, 2 air, 2 archer. This way I can go, like you said, 1 archer, 2 wizards, maybe 1 air defense, but it's much easier strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I've drawn the triangle and I've connected it to the town of the clan castle, and then I've drawn a line straight out and a deployment line. This is pretty standard, just used to make sure that you're planning out when you're thinking about how you're going to attack. It's helpful if you have some way to kind of draw this out, at least in your head, and then. Also look at the number of layers that it takes to get to the town hall, and notice the position of the Barb King. So if you were to attack the back, when the Barb King, if the Barb King starts to wander, I should say, the dragons may follow him and destroy him, try and destroy him. Meanwhile, you're getting attacked by a bunch of other buildings. So he's way at the back. So this is definitely telling me this is the right strategy to use.
Absolutely.
So we know that we're inverted. We draw our attack lines. And at the 2-minute 13 mark, I dropped these dragons as cutters wide. The reason I did that, and something that you should just bear in mind, is you have those builder huts that people like to put in the corners. If you just drop them in tighter and all the dragons funneled in, you may have a time issue. So knowing that I could still drop them on the corners, have them kill those 2 builder huts, and immediately turn around and help me cut, I just waited a couple extra seconds so they could do that, so therefore they wouldn't have to travel all the way across the base. Okay, so you see at the 2-minute 3-second mark, I've dropped the cutters. They've gotten rid of the builder huts and the outside buildings. Now I'm okay to drop my dragons. They're gonna, the cutters are still gonna be doing work, helping me trim on the outside. So this is where you drop the rest of your dragons. I think I might have had an extra dragon here, so I only dropped the 9 dragons. So again, so you can see at the 1-minute 57 mark, started to engage the archer tower. And again, this is where you need to be patient. You have 3 minutes to do this, and you don't need to rush any of your spells. So don't drop half, your rage spell half over the dragons where they are now, because they're going to move out of that. You want to drop the rage spell ahead so that they rage into it and into the air defense.
It's especially important to bear that in mind when you see this layout, because what you see is an upgraded gold storage and an upgraded elixir storage. Even rage, it's going to take your dragons a few seconds to get through that. So you really want to have that rage out in front of them. You don't want it to be wearing off when they're halfway through those high hit point structures and leave them subject to more attacks from the air defense.
Yep. So as you can see at the minute 52 mark, I've dropped my rage spell where the dragons are funneling to. You can see a couple Teslas are coming out, but those dragons are going to rage right to that air defense, and they're still going to be raged after they destroy it and start moving on to the structures that are outside of that. So on this slide, it's still at the 1-minute 52-second mark. It's just a little bit of forward planning. So when you're thinking about where you want your heal spells to go, this particular layout's very easy to see. You optimally want your heal spells to touch all 3 of the air defenses, because once you kill the first one, you're going to move into that center space, and you're going to want your dragons healed the entire time, because if they end up predominantly going after the town hall, that's going to take a couple seconds for them to destroy the town hall first, and you want to make sure that, okay, you got the town hall, that's great, you're going to get at least a 2-star, but the difference between a 2-star and 3-star, you got to clear out the whole base. So if you're losing a bunch of dragons, you may not have the force needed to get there. So again, I actually dropped this just a little too early, and again, this is where it takes practice, and just takes a couple reps to kind of learn how to do it. But I've dropped the heal spell since all 3 of the air defenses are now engaged to my dragons. I want to just make sure I can get into that mid part of the base, or I'm going to use that last rage to get rid of everybody. So once the clan castle begins to empty, that's where I'm going to drop my balloons, because by the time I get there, by the time the balloons get there, the dragons should have taken care of the clan castle troops. Hopefully, I haven't lost too many dragons to the 2 air defenses, and then I'm going to use, the rage spell to be able to get rid of the rest of those buildings.
And this shot here really illustrates why you want to save that second rage spell till you get in the middle. What you've seen happen, despite the best intentions of Atro's attack here, and what was a very well planned out attack, those Teslas popping up down there in the bottom have drawn off a couple of dragons. So you've got about a third of the dragon force that has wandered off the wrong direction here and is not moving toward the center of the base. That last rage spell is going to be what makes the difference between burning out the clan castle and the town hall and ending up running out of those dragons and then trying to come back in with just 1 or 2 dragons at a time against those air defenses.
Exactly, good point. So at the 1 minute 41 second, my balloons are still moving in. I've dropped the last spell. It's touching both of the air defenses. I have, I don't know how many that is, 4 or 5 dragons that are all being raged right now. The other dragons down below are starting to move back in towards the center, but still, that last rage is going to help me blow through the clan castle troops, which are diverting the dragons' attention right now, and get rid of that town hall and get rid of the 2 air defenses. So at the minute 28, my balloons are into the mid. Both the air defenses are now, the air defenses that were near the town hall are gone. The town hall's gone, almost gone. Haven't gotten the, yeah, it's gone because I've gotten the first star. Haven't gotten to 50% yet, but I mean, once those balloons are there, if they're only getting hit by 1 archer tower or even 2, they're going to last a long time.
Right, and you can see at this point, and again, always keep base layout in mind when you're making an attack. Take some mental notes. You can see while there are 4 archer towers actually, and a wizard tower remaining, there's almost no double coverage. Each one of those is on its own against an air attack, and not a single one of those is going to survive against even 1 dragon, much less the 5 or 6 that are still flying around.
Exactly. So I dropped my Barb King to help trim the edges. I didn't need it here again, which is a nice thing to have. If you don't have to deploy your Barb King and you just do at the end, that's awesome because you knew that you didn't even need it. So again, stuff can go wrong, and I still would have 3-starred this base.
Yep.
And as you can see, 100%. The 105 with the 2 rage, 1 heal, got there by attacking the point of the triangle. So again, it's really about looking at the base layout and trying to decide which strategy to use. And again, the 105.12 inverter recap, pick the point of the triangle of the ADs that's furthest from the clan castle, draw your attack lines and deploy your cutters and attackers. Use your first rage when AD 1 engages. Drop your second heal when the remaining 2 ADs engage. Try and get the heal spell to encircle those 2 and likely the town hall. Deploy the balloons when the clan castle empties, and then rage into the air defenses and the town hall to finish the job. So that pretty much wraps up the 3 main dragon strategies. I have another one I've been messing with that I may touch on in a further Clash cast, but these 3 and 4, if you count the 12 versus the 21, should be able to 3-star just about any base.
Well, to be clear, just about
Okay.
any Town Hall 8
Correct. Sorry.
base.
Yep.
One of the things that you have to be careful with is when you get up to Town Hall level 9, a new Town Hall level 9 still very susceptible to these kind of attacks. If you get up to a veteran Town Hall level 9 that's got 4 level 6 and maybe a mix of some level 7 air defenses in there, you're going to have to tweak the tactics a little bit because you're not going to find nice triangles, you're going to find different coverage, and it's going to be a lot harder for you to really get your dragons lined up the way you want before they start running into multiple air defenses or into a large force in the clan castle.
And again, one of the keys to whether I'm going to use a dragon strategy versus a Town Hall 9. Now, I am a Town Hall 9, but when I was a Town Hall 8, which way are the Expos pointing? If they're pointing at ground, then they're basically just a cannon. They're dead in a dragon attack. So it's very enticing to use dragons against Expos that are pointing at the ground. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, and in fact, you can see an example of that from our last war. If you look at my attack against Fatty, I was considering a different strategy, but as Atro correctly pointed out, with all the Expos pointing to the ground, might as well take in all the dragons and just take them out of play.
Yep. So speaking of that, our other little side topic today is on army composition and how to build a war attack. So these dragon strategies have been predominantly all air strategies, but there are other strategies to kind of consider that we can go into in future Clash casts. But I think for this discussion, we just wanted to emphasize, and again, we'll probably touch on this more in depth in a future Clash cast. But I've seen too many times people build split forces for war attacks that without really thinking about the consequences of having to deal with an entire base. Whereas if you pick one strategy, air versus ground, you're going to eliminate half of the defensive buildings essentially.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. You really need to look through and figure out where is the weakness in the base, and you do that by scouting. You can look at the position of the defenses, the clan castles. You can look at the level of various turrets, and you can even, if you're a little unsure, what you can do is you can have a minor split in your army. You never want to get past about 90%, 10%. So if you decide you're going to go with a go wipe or some other ground attack, if you want to have a couple of minions in reserve or something like that, not a big deal. But make sure that the vast majority is one way or another, because it really does take things out. We've talked a lot about eliminating air defenses, but if you don't bring in any air troops, air defenses are just empty buildings. They don't do anything at all.
Exactly. And again, when you get up to Town Hall 9, expos, pointing at the ground, just asking to be attacked in the air. I mean, obviously the range is decreased, but the damage is not decreased. It's not like you get a bonus in damage for having them point at the ground. You literally just get additional tiles of range.
Right.
So when I see expos point at the ground, I immediately think dragons supplemented with balloons or something.
Absolutely. One last piece to put there. If you've decided on a primarily ground army, it is an absolute must that you go into the fight with a number of wizards. And the reason I say that is because lightning spells will not kill a dragon in a clan castle. You need to take dragons of your own, or you need to take wizards in order to quickly wipe out an enemy's dragon. So if you've decided you're going to go ground, you've decided you're going to go some version of a go wipe, add a few more wizards into that and have them at the ready for when that dragon comes out of the clan castle so you can pick it off.
Exactly right. And again, we'll kind of talk about this a little more in a future Clashcast of really how to build your army. But again, just some basic points. Look at the war base. Look at what you're going against. And if you can, what I try and do before a war, I mean, it depends on how much I'm raiding. But if I'm going into a war and I've just done my last sort of raiding attack, I'll just leave my army camps empty until I can get a good sense, especially if I plan to wait a little bit and see how the attacks pan out, to get a good sense of, what does this guy have? What strategy can I use? And how am I going to, compose my army? Every single unit in your army matters, and every single one needs to have a purpose of what it's trying to go against and what the idea. If it's going to be a tank, okay. But if it's just going to be a wizard to get rid of a clan castle, okay. If it's going to get rid of an archer queen or barb king, great. But have a plan for every single unit. Don't just have random units. I know people don't like to waste resources, but assuming it's not a P.E.K.K.A. or something big, it's much better in terms of the long run to get the loot by getting the 3rd star and helping us win than to say, well, I have 5 archers I don't want to dump.
Yeah, I mean, you can do some math on it. If you look at, even take something a little more expensive like a giant, you've got 5 giants sitting there at 2,500 apiece. Go ahead and throw away the 12,500 in elixir, because if you get that star, you're probably going to take back a couple of 100,000 in elixir for dumping those giants. It's a great return on your investment.
Yeah, so once looking at the war base, then choose kind of how you want to attack, whether it's ground or air. And again, you're going to eliminate half the defenses just doing this. It's just going to be a big rock that your army has to attack, but you're going to eliminate half of the defenses by doing that. Again, as I mentioned, have a plan for every single unit, and then if possible, draw it out. You guys have seen me post a lot on GroupMe, and Murc and I have done a couple, strategy drawings where we just sort of just plan it out. Just draw some X's in there. I mean, there's a lot of, I use OneNote. UDoodle is I think it's free. There's a bunch of them you can use. Take a snapshot, draw it out. It doesn't take that long, and it could be the difference between, a 1, 2, 3 star attack.
Absolutely.
And then again, your air assault strategies, the 11 light we've talked about, 105, 813, we've all talked about that. We can get into later go wipe snipe, and then starting to use other attacks where hogs are involved. But again, use these strategies as you see fit, and hopefully, you'll have success. I think a lot of people have had success.
Yeah, we've definitely seen an uptick in 3-star attacks, and where I really think we've seen a lot of places where that 2nd star has come in where we would have normally expected only to see a 1-star attack.
Yep.
And where you can, one other thing, if you look at some of the details, our clan is been on the receiving end of a number of 10 dragon attacks that aren't really organized according to one of these strategies. So look around when you see that somebody has 0-starred one of our bases, take a look at the attack and see what they did and try and learn from what they did. Figure out, did they have their army split? Did they take the wrong path in? Did they take the wrong spells? Whatever it is they did, that's a mistake from which you can learn and help strengthen your attack in the future.
Exactly. So just to kind of wrap everything up, on the next episode, I wanted to kind of make a flow chart. I've been kind of thinking about it, of how to make a flow chart just to recap some of the dragon attacks, just so you kind of know you have a one-stop shop for what do I need to use if I'm looking at a base. So we'll just maybe talk a little bit about dragon attack recaps. I may throw in that other dragon attack that I've been kind of working on. And then we kind of wanted to get into raiding versus warring in terms of base design and army composition. So again, diving a little deeper into army compositions and how to build your army and how to map out exactly what you think you're going to need to get those, to have a successful attack in the war.
Yeah, and we think those strategies are going to be useful not just for the war that you're doing two at a time, but help you make some decisions when you're off in the wild attacking random bases. What kind of camps do you want to chase? What kind of resources do you want to chase? And what do we consider to be a good trade-off for the loot that's available?
Exactly. So I think that's pretty much all we have for today. Anything else, Murc?
No, I don't think so. As noted, you can always leave us feedback either in the comments section here on YouTube, through GroupMe, or in the regular chat within the game. And anything you guys can think of, you want to hear about, any suggestions you have, anything that we can do better, just let us know. We'll incorporate it.
Yep, definitely. Well, it's been another great Clashcast, so we'll see you guys next time. Let us know.
Go ROM Sandbox.
Go ROM Sandbox. Thanks for watching.